Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook download and 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/spookshow. Then go over to morbidlybeautiful.com as we are now part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcasting Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin.
Officials have declared a state of emergency. Everybody they kill gets up and kills. Residents are advised to find a safe place and stay there.
Execute Cobra.
The Doomsday Machine.
We celebrate our Independence Day.
That's right, you hear the sirens, the disaster continues. The world is burned, been nuked, flooded, all kinds of monster attacks, alien attacks. Man, we've been through the ringer this summer, and we're still not done yet. We still got fucking this one. We've got a fucking ecological oil disaster. We've still got snakes on planes. We've still got zombie apocalypse. Man, we got it all still coming here. The summer just won't fucking end. But I think we're having a lot of fun with it. So the Spookshow Summer Disaster continues. I'm Josh, and I'm joined here with Donnie.
Yo.
And the Professor Smoke.
What's up?
Will couldn't be with us. He's on assignment. He's off putting out brush fires somewhere in another disaster somewhere else on the planet. So he's not going to be able to join us this week. But yeah, we're here to talk about 2016's Deepwater Horizon. Now, I think this obviously fits the disaster criteria, but this isn't like a worldwide disaster. This is more of like it's probably more than a localized disaster too, but it's still like, it's more of like a regional disaster. You know, this was a bad thing. And this is rare for us too, because this is I think they term it as a biographical disaster. So like this actually happened. This is based on a true story. You know, I'm sure like most movies do, they fudge some aspects of it, but for the most part, I think I even read that they really were commended for how much they did get right here. There were certain things they didn't talk about, or maybe they didn't expand on, but for the most part, I think they told the story pretty much the way it happened. So we're going to be talking about Deepwater Horizon from 2016. I think this is going to be an interesting one for sure. Before we dive into it, though, I'll go ahead and toss out some of the usual information, and that is we want you to go check out aaspookshow.com. We call that the center of the Spook Show universe. From there, you can go to all of our podcast archives are there. Patreon.com/aaspookshow. You can get to it from there, where every month we have video minisodes, including the Library of the Professor. Every month we have Crapster Piece Theater, and good Lord, we've got another one. We've got another turd lined up in the pipe for this week. Or this week. It's not this week. It's this month. It comes out July 20. Actually, it is this week. It comes out this Friday. Sorry, I'm all out of whack. I need to look at the actual fucking calendar. It comes out this Friday over on patreon.com/aaspookshow, and we're going to be watching Barbed Wire. You know, up to this point, I had avoided this. You know, like I knew that it looked like shit. I knew it had Pamela Anderson in it, which, you know, she's hot, but that's about all I knew about it. I had avoided watching it up to this point. So come find out what we have to say about that this Friday. Except Donnie, right?
Yeah.
Donnie, yeah.
I won't be there.
Yeah. I was the lucky shit last month. I didn't have to watch a disaster movie. So now I've got to watch Barbed Wire. So thanks for that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah. You're like the little dog that comes in and takes a crap on your rug and then runs away giggling. No,
I just, kind of scooch my ass across the carpet, just leave a little bit of a stain. Just kind of rub it in.
Big brown skid mark on the rug called Barbed Wire. Yeah, it'd probably be me and Smoke there for that one, because Willie's been busy knee deep doing this, that, and the other thing, so he probably won't be there for that. But yeah, that'll come at you this Friday over on Patreon, and also over on our YouTube channel. We've got tons of stuff going on there. Grindhouse Gutter, Video Vortex, Hammer Horror and Order, Traumatic Experience. Lots of cool stuff to check out over there. So all that from aaspookshow.com. So I guess without any further build-up, we'll go ahead and toss to the trailer for Deepwater Horizon.
Give me those eyes.
Dad, you need to get me a fossil.
I will.
I want to be able to hold it up and say my daddy tames the dinosaurs.
We a big company. Millions of moving parts.
Hey, how you doing, man?
We all work very hard to ensure those moving parts are functioning as means to very profitable end for all of us.
Have it smoke?
Hey, come close to the computer. Give me those eyes.
No!
That is a genuine dinosaur tooth.
She's gonna flip out. You're a good man, Mike. Is there someone at your door?
Are you seeing this? Everybody off the...
Mike, what is that? Is everything okay?
We gotta go right now! I'll call you back.
When the walls caving in, the world stops.
Hey!
Hear the voice.
Mayday, Mayday. This is Deepwater Horizon.
What's wrong?
Me towards the rocks.
Not Mildred.
You gotta get to the lifeboats right now. My wife's name is Felicia. And my daughter's Sue. And I will see them again. Do you understand me?
All right, there you go. That's the trailer for that. Now, I guess my first question here is, Smoke, have you seen this one before?
No, this was actually my first time. I don't know why I mean, it's Kurt Russell, and like, I don't know why I somehow avoided this movie for this long. I mean, I did not intentionally. I'd forgotten all about it until it popped up on our wheel spin for this episode.
Donnie, what about you?
Yeah, this was a first time watch for me. I just didn't get to it. It wasn't really on my list to watch.
Yeah.
So I just didn't get around to it.
I've seen it before, but I don't recall whether I went to the theater to see this or not. And because I saw it back around that time, so I don't remember if it was in the theater or a little later on once it came out on home video. But I have seen it before, although only once. I think that's probably part of the problem with this movie is that I'm not going to say it's necessarily forgettable, and we'll get into it, but it's like it's one of those type of films to me. Like once you've kind of seen it, you've seen it. You know, like you don't. It's not a repeat viewing kind of thing, and that's not shitting on it. It's just some movies, in my opinion, play like that. Like, okay, once you've seen it, and when someone mentions it, it's, oh yeah, that's that movie about that. You know, like you're not gonna. It's not. I wouldn't think this is anyone's favorite movie where you're gonna buy it and watch it over and over, right? But who knows?
No.
Each their own. Some of the background information I was able to pull. There was 2 alternate titles that I found. One from France. It was just called Deepwater. And the Japanese English title was Burning Ocean, which that's very literal.
I mean, you know, can you fault?
Burning Ocean. But all the other titles I saw were just some, interpretation of Deepwater Horizon. It debuted September 13th of 2016 at the Toronto International Film Festival, and then it was released wide September 30th, 2016. It was produced by, it's one of those movies that has like 18 producers. Produced by Summit Entertainment, Participant Media, D. Bonaventura Pictures, Closest to the Hold Productions. What? Is it? I know.
Say that again.
Closest to the Hole Productions. And why the fuck not? And Leverage Entertainment, and it was distributed by Lionsgate. So I'm sure that means there's just a lot of like international fingers in the pie here as far as like the money. You know what I mean?
Fingers, hole. Okay.
Yeah, whichever one was closest to the hole, that's who was paying for it.
Not the wrong production.
Yeah.
No.
Well, maybe. You never know. Rated PG-13. Total runtime of 1 hour and 47 minutes. On IMDb, it's listed as an action drama history. Filmed in the New Orleans, various spots around New Orleans, and Chalmette, Port Fortune, Galliano, Louisiana. I never found a complete production window, but production looks like it started around April 27th of 2015. I don't know how long it took. I was never able to peg all that, but it was done for a budget of $110 million.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, I mean, once you watch it, you kind of understand.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, but still.
But here's the part. Here's the bad part. It only grossed $121.7 million. All in, they lost somewhere in their neighborhood of $60 to $112 million on this movie.
Oh yeah, when you include marketing, and
everything, all in, everything that goes into putting out a movie, like especially one with this kind of budget, with this cast and everything, they lost their ass off on this movie. I've got the top 10 in the box office that weekend that it came out. So this is September 30th through October 2nd of 2016. One of Smoke's favorite years, right? 2016. Number 10, Snowden. Number 9, Bridget Jones' Baby. Number 8, Don't Breathe. You know, I still haven't sat down and watched that one, but I've heard good things about it. But I've heard, I haven't watched it.
Yeah.
Something I'm sure we'll get to here on the show eventually.
Of course.
Number 7, Queen of Catway. I think that's how you say it. I'm not sure. Number 6.
Yeah, it's the Cats prequel.
Oh God.
I'm just playing. I don't know.
Mr. Sandy Bottoms or whatever the fuck that thing was called in the damn movie. You know,
I don't know. I didn't watch it.
Yeah, you know what? Fuck that movie, and fuck you for bringing it up. Number 6, in its debut weekend, Masterminds. Number 5, Sully. That was the Tom Hanks Miracle on the Hudson movie, right? Number 4, Storks. Number 3, The Magnificent Seven, and that was in its second week. Number 2, in its debut weekend, Deepwater Horizon. It made $20.2 million that opening weekend. And then number 1, also in its opening weekend, Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children. Opened up with $28.8 million that weekend. So Miss Peregrine took out Deepwater Horizon that weekend, Smoke.
I never saw that one either, though.
No.
Yeah, never even heard of it. But then again, that doesn't really say much.
I don't think I saw any, well, maybe not any of those movies, but not many of those movies, I don't think.
Yeah, that was a weird year then for movies. I mean, that week particularly. I don't think I saw any of those either, except maybe.
Because I never even saw that remake of The Magnificent Seven either. Like, I remember kind of wanting to go see it, but never did. That for me, I think that's around that time period where I wasn't watching as many movies, when they were coming out, because nothing was really striking me. And so there's a laundry list of movies from those years that I need to go back and watch. But. So there you go. That's your top 10 snapshot in the old box office there. This movie, though, was actually nominated for 2 Oscars. It didn't win either of them, but it was nominated for Best Sound Editing, and it lost that one to the movie Arrival. You remember that? Alien invasion type flick. And it was nominated for Best Visual Effects and lost that one to The Jungle Book.
The Jungle Book.
Yeah,
yes, indeed.
The remake, the live action remake of The Jungle Book.
Live action?
Yeah. Which, if you've seen that, you could understand that winning the visual effects, Oscar. That's
I was just I didn't realize it was 2016 seems a long time ago. It's not really all that long ago, but I thought the Jungle Book was newer than that.
Was this roughly 7 years ago? So yeah, it does feel like it was longer ago, but not really. Of course, this whole movie is based on the actual Deepwater Horizon oil spill that happened. It was a Deepwater Horizon drilling rig explosion that happened April 20th of 2010. So they didn't waste any time, really. 6 years? The full movie is already out. I think the real event ended up being one of, if not the largest environmental disaster in U.S. history because of all the oil that came out, right?
Yeah, it was 87 days the blowout lasted of the,
that means
before it was.
Billions and billions of gallons of oil just fucking spilling into the Gulf of Mexico. So yeah, it's a pretty bad deal.
Yeah, it's the ecological aspects of it too, not just the immediate disaster of the oil rig explosion and all that, but yeah, lasting effect.
And they didn't really go deep into that aspect of it in this movie. The only thing we really even saw of that aspect of it was just the fact, other than the aftermath part, was when that, what was that, a pelican or something that flew into the boat and was kind of going ape shit on the bridge.
It was covered in oil, and then just fluttered around, hitting the windows and all kind of shit.
That was really about the only part of the movie where they kind of leaned in on this is going to be bad, but it wasn't. It wasn't necessarily about the aftermath. This movie was about the rig explosion itself and the people that died and the people that survived there. That's what this was about. But this directly, this was a completely true story. This actually did happen and was one of the worst ecological disasters in United States history, and a lot of people lost a lot of money on this one. Not on the movie. Well, they did lose money on the movie, but on the actual thing itself, like BP, I think they said they had to pay like billions in ecological felonies, fines, and shit. So this was not good. And they did touch on that a little bit, like in the aftermath of the movie, But
and I mean, the movie is true to, I guess, the story for the most part, other than embellishing what they need to for the dramatic effect and everything. But yeah, once you watch the movie, you'll see that if it is indeed portrayed that correctly with the BP corporate people in here, you're like, yeah, they definitely deserve to lose all those billions.
Yeah, I didn't look up much of that, but remember they did say in the aftermath where Johnny survived, this person died, whatever, that stuff they do at the end of these type of movies.
Yeah,
those two guys that were kind of the head assholes of BP or whatever, they didn't it say they went to jail or something for a time?
No, they were actually
not more than one. I thought I had manslaughter charge.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah, they were both for well, I think it was they were brought up on manslaughter charges, and then the charges were later dismissed. Yeah, which is fucked.
Yeah, the whole situation was fucked.
And also something else that we had kind of, actually, Josh, you and I were talking about it. There was another
toward the beginning of July.
I was gonna say another, but it was like an oil rig or oil platform that had caught fire.
Yeah, it was something similar to this. Where was that at? I'm blanking on where that was because I don't.
It's in the Gulf of Mexico, Bay of Campeche.
Yeah. Wow.
Crazy.
I'm sure unfortunately, these things probably happen more often than we really are always fully aware. I think this one got a lot of play because it was a big one. This was a big deal. I remember when it happened at the time, this was a big deal because obviously the loss of life, but then like Donnie said, for 2 or 3 months afterwards, oil was just spilling into the ocean.
Yeah.
So that was a big deal for a while after this happened. Not that any of the other ones aren't. But, I think that's why we know so much about this one. It was,
Yeah, it was just covered, so...
Yeah, very heavily. But unfortunately, these things do tend to happen, time to time.
Yeah. Something else, just kind of on the background a little bit. They built an oil rig just for filming. And director Peter Berg claimed, it was one of the largest practical sets that was ever constructed.
I did make some note about that. I saw it was an 85% scale version of the rig. And they built it in a parking lot of the abandoned Six Flags New Orleans theme park.
Damn.
And then they put it in a tank of 2 million gallons of water. And then, of course, I'm sure CGI'd the rest of the ocean around it or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, to simulate the ocean and everything. This thing had a functional helipad and elevators in it. So it was about as close as you get to the real rig, built in a damn old theme park parking lot. I guess the one good thing here is that where they filmed this at is basically right where it happened. So hopefully the people that lived in that region were able to benefit a little bit from the movie being filmed there,
Yeah, that's true.
It was directed by Peter Berg, who would may possibly better be known as he was the director. He's actually an actor too, and you've probably seen him in a ton of stuff. But he also directed. Remember that dark comedy back in the late '90s, early 2000s, Very Bad Things. He directed that. Mm-hmm. He directed Friday Night Lights, the Will Smith flick Hancock. He was an actor in. This is one that we will definitely get to here on the Spook Show eventually. Shocker. He was in that as well. He was in Fire in the Sky. That's another one that we might get to one of these days. He's done Tons of stuff, tons of movies, tons of TV. Peter Berg, and he's one of those guys. If you see him, you're like, oh yeah, it's that guy. Like he's not like a major star or anything, but he's definitely a big character actor of the last 20, 30 years. Screenplay by Matthew Michael Carnahan and Matthew Sand. Carnahan, he wrote World War Z, and Matthew Sand, he wrote Ninja Assassin. This movie stars. It's got a pretty good cast. Stars Mark Wahlberg as Mike Williams. Good Lord, Mark Wahlberg is one of the biggest movie stars on the planet these days. But you might know him as the Funky Bunch, right? Because his brother was Donnie Wahlberg, right? He was in New Kids on the Block, and he was in the Marky Mark or whatever. But he
hilarious.
He had his big breakout role in Boogie Nights. That's probably the one, right? That really took him from just a guy you knew from that shit in the late 80s, early 90s to this dude's a legit star. And he went
something else about Mark Wahlberg. This is also, I think, his either his 6th or 7th movie he's done where all of them have been, I want to say, like 6 or 7 of them have been based on a true story.
Yeah, he has kind of become one of the guys that does these type of movies, like like The Perfect Storm.
Yeah,
because that was based on a true story, right?
Yeah,
and of course the Happening, that was a true story. If life was bullshit.
Hopefully it doesn't go the route of Steve Guttenberg later in life,
Oh God.
Steve Guttenberg used to do a lot of true story movies, like the Poseidon remake, right?
Yeah, but I think the difference is Mark Wahlberg.
I think Mark Wahlberg's in danger of that happening.
Yeah, I was about to say Mark Wahlberg stuff is good, whereas that was just bad stuff. Of course, stars Kurt Russell as Jimmy Harrell. Well, I mean, good Lord! Once again, one of the bigger movie stars of the last, what you could argue, golly, over 40 years, probably last 50 plus years. I mean, he's been acting since he was a little kid on sitcoms and Gunsmoke and all kinds of shit. I mean, his resume goes way the fuck back. But you would know him from Escape from New York, The Thing, Big Trouble in Little China. I mean, the list, we could literally have a whole Spookshow spotlight on Kurt Russell, and I'm sure one of these days we will. Gina Rodriguez as Andrea Flatus. She may be known best from the series that ran on the CW for years, Jane the Virgin. She was also in the movie Annihilation, and more recently, like in the last year or two, she was in I think it was like a straight to Netflix movie called Awake, which, if I remember correctly, was kind of a messed up movie. I don't know if either of you guys watched that one.
Mm-mm. No.
In premise alone, it's messed up because the whole premise, if I recall, is nobody could go to sleep. It's like one of those The Happening type deals where all of a sudden everyone on the planet can't sleep anymore. And now you're dealing with the consequences of that. 3 or 4 days in, the world descends into madness because nobody can go to sleep. I know it sounds kind of weird, but it's pretty crazy.
You're saying that everybody turns into like a meth addict or whatever after on a binge for 8 or 9, 10.
Yeah, basically, yeah. Within a week or two, everything's just insane and pure insanity. John Malkovich is also in it as Don Vidrin. He's another one, just like Kurt Russell and Mark Wahlberg at this point. Tons of movies. He was in The Line of Fire, Con Air, Smoke, Shadow of the Vampire. He was in that one. Didn't he play Nosferatu or whatever in that one? Or the actor Max Schreck, right?
Wait a minute. Who was it? Oh, no, he played... who did he play in that? Because you're talking about Malkovich, right? No, the Shrek character is actually played by Willem Dafoe.
Willem Dafoe, yeah.
I think he played the director, W. Murdoch.
Maybe you're right. But yeah, another one that we will get to for sure. Probably after we watch Nosferatu, one of the various Nosferatus, officially on the show, and then we'll do Shadow of the Vampire at some point. But yeah. That's a lot. But that's a good
double feature. That's neither here nor there. But watching those two together would be good.
Yeah.
It's time to refresh. For your convenience, we have an attractive refreshment stand with a parade of items to tempt your taste. Hot buttered popcorn, golden good and fresh from the popper, your favorite candies, wholesome and rich and full of flavor, ice cream and other good things to eat, plus ice-cold Coca-Cola. So bright, so bracing, with a taste and tingle all its own.
For you, the listeners of the All-American Spook Show podcast, Audible is offering a free audiobook download with a free 30-day trial to give you the opportunity to check out their service. So, as we do, hopped on over to audible.com. I just typed in Deepwater Horizon to see what would pop up. Sure enough, surprise, surprise, I guess, in a real-life scenario like this, we did get some stuff to pop up. We've got Fire on the Horizon, the untold story of the explosion aboard the Deepwater Horizon by Tom Schroeder and John Conrad. That one is just shy of 8.5 hours long. Let's see, this is an Audible exclusive, Run to Failure, BP in the Making of the Deepwater Horizon Disaster by Abraham Lustgarten. That one is almost 14.5 hours long. And let's see, one more, A Sea in Flames by Carl Safina. That one is just under 12 hours long. And it's also about the Deepwater Horizon blowout. So if you wanted to get maybe a deeper look into some of the stuff they didn't cover in the movie or that we'll talk about here today, go over to audibletrial.com/spookshow. Again, that's audibletrial.com/spookshow for your free audio books. Now I'm going to hop on over to, we're just going to do some plot summaries on IMDb today. I don't feel like dealing with ChatGPT right now. So, we got a few here. We'll read a couple. We got the short one, a dramatization of the disaster in April 2010 when the offshore drilling rig called the Deepwater Horizon exploded, resulting in the worst oil spill in American history. Then I'll skip down to a slightly longer one here, and this one was submitted by Nick Reganis over on IMDb. April 20th, 2010. Manned by 126 crew members, the semi-submersible offshore oil drilling rig Deepwater Horizon is free-floating over the Gulf of Mexico, 41 miles southeast of the Louisiana coast. But before long, Chief Electronics Technician Mike Williams and the seasoned rig supervisor Jimmy Harrell are shocked to discover that the standard procedure regarding the cement foundation, the only thing between the rig and a blowout, has been bypassed by orders of BP's executives Donald Vidrin and Robert Kaluza. Clueless about the stability of the well and whether the integrity of the concrete has been compromised or not, the greedy managers push to start pumping, intent on cutting expenses and disaster strikes. As a result, an endless chain of malfunctions transforms the Deepwater Horizon into a blazing inferno, while Williams and Harrell heroically struggle to rescue their shipmates in the worst oil disaster in the U.S. history that lasted 87 nightmarish days. So there you go. Really, like, this kind of movie, like, you really do need to see it because it's more of a spectacle, kind of, right? Like, because really you're well into the movie before, I don't want to say nothing happens, but it takes a long time to finally get to when there's quote-unquote action, right?
Yeah,
building their characters, and even though it's based on a true story, I guess building that showing you all the safety regulations that were broken by the BP corporate people and all that stuff. So before anything actually does happen, like I said.
Yeah, I actually was paying attention to the clock. You're 51 minutes in to the movie before the blowout happens. And then from there, though, it's mass chaos to the end. So, I think you get your fair share from pretty much from there to the end. But building up to that, it's basically just what you could argue the first third, maybe even the first half of the movie is just half-assery and mistakes piling up, right? You get a lot of character work. You're introduced to all the main characters and all the side characters and all that stuff, and then you quickly realize, all right, these are the good guys. These BP guys are the bad guys, and then they're kind of having that tug of war of like, fuck you, start it, fuck you, no, we need to make sure, and then eventually you get there, and then when it happens, boom. I think you get your money's worth, though, once the shit goes down. Like, as far as the look of it, I think they did a good job in this movie of the look, the visual effects and everything, like the cinematography. I think they do a good job here of just showing you what, as close as you would want to get of what this would have been like if you were in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. They did certainly a great job of, portraying what it may have been like.
And, I think hats off too to the writers. What was that? The two Matthew Sand and Carnahan or whatever. I think they did a good job of putting this together and making it a compelling story and making you care about the characters as much as you do. The ones that you see that are lost, the ones that survive and everything. But like the character work, I thought was pretty well done here to make you care about this, because I know that sounds like, well, that's pretty easy, right? This was a horrible true story. It's pretty easy.
Yeah.
But like that's not always the case with these type of movies. Sometimes they fumble that.
Yeah.
They fumble that part of it.
You've got to. I mean, it's not like Kurt Russell can be Kurt Russell and go into this character, like it's like Snake Plissken or whatever.
Yeah.
He's got to be a real life type person, and you got to kind of get into the head of that, I guess, rather than just creating your own characters. I would imagine it's probably much more difficult to do something portraying a true character than it is a fictional one. I would imagine.
The funny thing about that too is that this actually, obviously a true story. We've explained that well enough, but this was actually adapted from a New York Times article. That's, I guess, basically how they got the rights to make this movie or tell this story. It was adapted from a New York Times article from Christmas of 2010 called Deepwater Horizon's Final Hours. That's what they took that. I guess that was the bones, right, of the story, the frame, and then they turned a screenplay out of it. So, I really think they did a good job with that, though, just putting it together, making you care about these characters. And to that, I think, and that's what one thing I made in my notes. You need an asshole, just get John Malkovich. Because he's
a great villain, too. I mean, that's probably, another spotlight that we could do, like great horror or, like not so much horror, but, great movie villains.
Great villains, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I guarantee you, Malkovich, something Malkovich has done will come up in that. I mean, he's just good at it. There's some guys that are just good at certain particular things. And one of his things is just being like the sharp asshole, or a villain, or however you want to frame it. Like he's just good. Like once again, this is a true story, so you have to tread lightly, but you almost want this guy to get hurt, in this movie. Right? I'm not talking about in real life. In this movie, you want this guy to, like, what, this motherfucker deserves it, But what happens to him, Smoke? He gets out.
Yeah. He's
of course
on the one of the ships, and then you see him in as the what do you call it? Not escape ships, the damn lifeboats or whatever.
Yeah.
And then Kurt Russell makes contact with him and makes sure he knows that that the people that were in the drill room died. Nobody in the drill room hardly made it out, and then he makes sure that that he feels that or whatever.
He gives him the hard stink eye, and then get on the boat. You disgust me. Get out of here. Yeah, I mean, what can you say about that? The blowout, the explosion, and everything. I mean, like it's edge of your seat type action. You know what I mean? Like you want to see everybody survive. How do they survive? I mean, once again, it's a true story, so certain people didn't make it out, although you don't know which ones. Until you get further along in the story, unless you're well versed in what happened. But it really is like edge of your seat type action as far as just watching the survival and everybody get out of there, right?
Yeah, and I bet that I didn't see it in the theater, and apparently a lot of other people didn't either because it flopped. But this would have been a great theatrical experience, I would think, once when all that stuff's going on. Yeah. As far as the one to have seen in the theater for that aspect.
I really feel like I did. Like for some reason, I feel like I did see this, but I just can't remember. I know I saw it, I just can't remember theater or not. But I want to say I might have. But yeah, it really is well done. That aspect of it, just watching it, the blowout, watching it blow up, explode, everything kind of slowly crumbling as they're trying to get off of it. I mean, like it really is well done. I can't say enough about that. And then once you get towards the end, and Jimmy, like they've all managed to get in the lifeboats, get over to this ship. What kind of ship is that, Smoke? It's like a oil barge kind of thing that was just there.
Yeah, it's just waiting to offload, I guess, to fill up. Once they,
it was like a supply boat.
Yeah,
it's there. All the survivors managed to get on that ship in various ways, and once they get on there, and then Jimmy, who Kurt Russell's character, who's the captain of the ship, right? Basically, he reads out the roll call. Like, all right, I'm going to read off the names, and if you're here, yell out your name. And then he gets to people that aren't there. They're not answering, and then you realize they didn't make it. That's pretty sobering, though. Like that really brings it home when they're reading the names off one by one, and then like, fuck, that sucks. All these dudes didn't get off, and they do.
And most in the drill room, right? I think for the most part, I think it was 12. Either 11 or 12. I can't remember right now. One of the
other. It was 11.
Yeah.
11.
Yeah, and most of those were for the guys that were right there in that room.
Pressure, and then the explosion itself from the
and then you get the typical thing you get in these kind of movies, when fade to black and then the words come up like Jimmy survived, he lived his life, blah, 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 that kind of stuff. Then I thought it was a pretty good touch where they read, or they had the names of all the men that died.
Images,
and the pictures of them. Yeah. So that was a nice little touch. The only thing I might have done there, I know this is a small thing, but I would have put the actor's picture next to him just so you can make the connection of like,
who it was in the movie.
Who it was in the movie versus the real life. And I know what they were trying to do. Like, who cares about the actor? You're trying to pay homage to these men that died. But it would have been nice in the context of the movie to say, like, which guy's this? Who am I looking at here? But small thing. I guess, if you care that much, you go back and figure it out. But none of us nominated this. This was actually a wheel spin because we were supposed to do cannon fodder this week. But since we're in the middle of the summer disaster, we kind of decided to put cannon fodder, which, where we talk about the Cannon Films library. We've put that on hiatus this summer. But when the rotation comes back around, I think it's at toward the end of August or early September, we will be coming back to cannon fodder in this spot in the rotation. So this is the last one out of cannon fodder. And then back to the good times of old Cannon Films after this. But so I guess I'll start. Like I said, it's somewhat probably criminally underrated in the sense that, like, maybe not a lot of people have seen this, and those numbers kind of tell the truth of it. But I think this is one that you probably should see. If you like those big blow-up type action movies, there's plenty of that for you. But there's also, a pretty good story here of the survivors and, unfortunately, the men that were lost and everything. It's just, if you like that true story type of stuff, this is really well done, and I would recommend it. So, that being said, just comparing it to a lot of the other movies that we've done here on the show, I mean, it's not something I'm going to go to the well a lot on. Not that I wouldn't watch it again, because obviously I watch it again for this. I've seen it multiple times now, but it's not one I would openly seek out a lot. So that being said, though, I think it's pretty solid. I'm going to say just an even 3 stars for me for this. Good flick, just not something I'd watch over and over. So, Donnie, what do you say?
Yeah, the thing about, based on true events, especially, something of this magnitude, you already know the ending. It's not really knocking it at all, but, kind of echoing what you said. The action and, the drama is really the star here. You can really debate whether this is a good movie or not for, whatever reason, but no denying that they really nailed the kind of the hopelessness and the fear of, what this disaster, may have been like for the crew, the families, and all of that. But
I think as a movie, too, it did do a good job of building up the suspense to the moment, because it did take 50 minutes to get there. You could, like, they kept clicking back to it. You know what I mean? Like, here's the story of this person. Now let's go underwater and see that the earth is starting to crack. Like, like they built you up well to that point where, like, oh, shit, this is bad. This is going to be bad. This is going to be real bad. And then when it gets there, you see how bad it was.
Yeah. Yes. So, for all of those reasons, I'm going to echo your rating and give it 3 stars.
Smoke, what do you say?
Yep. Yeah. I can't add much more to what y'all said. I agree with all of that. And, that it also, that the budget was pretty high, and it shows, like those disaster scenes of the explosions and the your oil blowing to the pressure, blowing off plates, blowing off, all that stuff going on was very realistic. I mean, you felt like you were there with them in the moment. Nothing ever really felt like you're watching some big budget Hollywood movie. I mean, sometimes some of that stuff's hard to do when you have real actors interacting with fiery infernos or whatever. It very much looks like green screen, etc. I never really noticed any of that type of thing with this movie. It's all cut together really well that way, as far as whatever green screen type effects or whatever they did weren't noticeable. You felt like you were there with them. So I thought that was handled well. Like I said, I'd never seen it before, so this was a good surprise for me. I had no idea how good or whatever the movie was going to be. As far as I knew Kurt Russell was in it, that much it was like, okay, well, yeah, I'm kind of excited about seeing this movie. But coming out afterwards, then, it was much better than I expected it to be. But I mean, I think I'm going to echo y'all's ratings as well. 3, it's one, like you said, you're not going to watch it over and over and over again, but it's very well made. One that if it were on, another couple of years or so down the road, I'd watch it again for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, to me, Kurt Russell's one of those guys where, like, he doesn't make a shitty movie. You know what I mean? Like, if he's in it, it's probably going to be at least all right. You know?
Yeah.
All right to great. It's almost like
he's great at picking movies.
Yeah, I kind of put him like with Tom Hanks. There's other guys like that, right? Like, even if the movie isn't the greatest movie in the world, he's good in it. You know what I mean? So, like, I'll always give those movies a shot when guys like Kurt Russell are in it. So, there you go. So that's 3 stars across the board from us, and I'm sure we'll get Will's thoughts on it at one point or another. But even though this would have been cannon fodder, and even though this isn't a horror movie, we'll still do some of the normal stuff that we do. So,
Connections from the crypt.
Well,
yeah. So this is actually kind of I don't know if it's an odd connection, but so on the cast side, we've got Gary Hecker. So Gary Hecker, he did some voices in the I'm guessing this is probably like ADR or something, like, you know, some sort of sound editing on the you know, in background voices probably, but he also did some of the alien voices for Independence Day.
Yeah.
So that was, you know, just one we did, you know, just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
And also in the Spookshow Summer Disaster.
Mm-hmm. That might be one of our first disaster connections, right? Immediately to another
yes.
one.
Yes. Yeah. And also we've got, actually, it may not be the first, but on the crew side, we've got makeup effects legend Howard Berger. He dates back to past Spook Show episodes of The Green Inferno, Annabelle, Josh's favorite, House of Wax, Invasion USA, Dr. Giggles, Evil Dead 2, and The Book of Eli.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Book of Eli. That's another disaster.
Yep.
House of Wax. Well, there you go. Will's not here to give the official kill count, but I'm going to say 11 because unfortunately 11 people perished in this horrible.
Rough.
Well, I mean, you know.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong.
I'm not cracking on the real life aspect of it. I'm just saying as a movie, 11 people. So we'll go with that. But let's talk about the kill reel.
Highlight kill.
All right, this is where this is a bit probably inappropriate for the moment.
It's kind of dark. I was like, oh no.
You know what? Like,
no.
You know, I'm gonna say just the explosion. I'm just gonna go there and then leave it at that. We don't need to go into the grisly details.
Yeah.
Because you don't, you know, and honestly, you know, you can kind of say the same thing about
Gore score.
This is a rough pull. I ain't gonna lie.
And that's what I call him, the rib.
Yikes!
Oh man, I'm just cringing over here.
You know, one scene in this movie that's, I mean, it's not necessarily, it might be I guess maybe the goriest. That's definitely the goriest, or it's the one that makes you cringe the most. Speaking of cringe, but it makes you cringe because of, you know, I hate to compare this to some splatter movies or whatever, but like Zombie, you know, the splinter in the eye scene in Zombie, right?
Oh God.
Well, there's a scene in here where Kurt Russell's character, he's in the shower. That's what happened. I guess it's a true story. Maybe it was, you know, when this stuff started going down, none of the alarms were really going off until, I forget what happened with that, but the alarms didn't start going off till later on into the incident. So he's in the shower whenever the explosion, or at least whenever the pressure things blow or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And he's blown out of the shower. I don't know what this glass shower door or whatever it is, but he ended up with a bunch of shards of glass in his face and his body because, I mean, you know, he didn't have any clothes on. The most vulnerable position you could be in this movie or in any kind of situation like this is to be in the shower somewhere where you're fully unclothed. So his body had no protection from these shards or whatever. And there's a scene where he pulls that, was it a shard of glass or a shard of metal or something that was lodged in his foot? I think it was
glass, yeah, probably from the shower door or something in the middle of his foot.
Yeah, yeah, feel that.
Yeah, he got rolled up, like in that scene. He got rolled up, like, because he had glass, like, all in his face and his body and then in his foot. Yeah.
Eyes were damaged to it and stuff. Couldn't see him to get out to escape, and that's when Mark Wahlberg's character made it back in there and found him and, helped him out.
I wouldn't necessarily call this a gory movie, sorry. No. But there are some cringy type of things that happen to the people on there, right, that they show. So just based on that.
The other one was the bone, when they're trying to get that guy's leg is stuck in the debris or whatever, and they're trying to help him pull his leg out, and
the bone is holding his leg in.
Compound fracture of his bone sticking out, like not allowing him to take it. Yeah, that's another moment where you're like, you feel that pain. So
yeah, there's a few of those in here.
Yeah.
So did you want to place a number on it, considering there's not a lot there, but there's enough to make?
Well, I think just those two cringe-inducing scenes. As far as, and then by cringe, I just mean that it makes you just feel the pain of the situation.
Yeah.
Otherwise, other than that, I mean, there's explosions and things going off, and people get tossed around, and debris and things hitting people and all that. But it's not made to be. They're showing the disaster aspect. They're not trying to get into the gruesome, gory bits of what maybe happened to these two people's bodies and whatnot. So yeah, they're not. And I can't remember if it was rated PG-13.
Yeah, it was PG-13.
Oh yeah. So yeah, they're not trying to get into all that to make it exploitative or anything. But those two scenes alone, right there, are enough to make you like. I think I'd have to raise it up to about at least a 4, maybe a 5. Why not? I'll go with a 4 on it, because I mean it's a PG-13 movie, and we're not talking about crazy gore and all that. But those two scenes, and I'm actually kind of surprised they got that one in their PG-13 with him pulling that shard out of his foot.
Yeah.
That's pretty damn rough.
Yeah.
Probably that might be the goriest PG-13 movie we've had on here. I mean, like I said, it's not a gore. It's not meant to be gory or whatever. It's just.
Yeah, you usually don't get to this level of violence in a PG-13 movie. So yeah, I guess that pretty much wraps it up here for Deepwater Horizon. We'll leave it there. The usual aggregates, though, IMDb gave it 7.1 out of 10 stars, which is pretty good. For that it's a high average. Metacritic, it got a meta score of 68, which that's out of 100, so that's pretty good. And by and large, the critics agreed over on Rotten Tomatoes on its tomato meter, certified fresh, 82%, and the exact same score for the audience score, 82%. That's rare, that you get the tomato meter and the audience score to line up perfectly at 82%. So I think by and large, we pretty much agree. Like, it's not one you're going to watch over and over again just because of what kind of story it is. But for what you get here, it's pretty well done. And if you've overlooked it for random reasons, I think you should give it a chance and go check it out. So I think we all agree there. So,
and one thing, it really didn't deserve to flop, I don't think, at the box office. I don't know what happened with it. But.
Probably just the time of year, if you think about it. It came out on September 30th. Everybody's kind of in that Halloween mood by then. That probably didn't help. If this had come out maybe earlier in the year, or hell, maybe even in the heart of the summer, it might have done better than this, That's just a marketing flub by who was it that put this out? It was Universal or whoever it was. They kind of shit the bed on the release schedule there for that. But otherwise, I think you should give it a chance. So there you go. And hopefully we'll get Will's thoughts on that sooner or later. But we're actually moving back to normal programming. I mean, we're still in the Summer Disaster, but this falls more into exactly what we do here. Because it's been a minute. Well, last week we did 28 Weeks Later, but we haven't done a whole hell of a lot of horror throughout the Summer Disaster, but we're going to fix that next week. We're going to be watching The Thing. John Carpenter's classic, The Thing.
Yes.
From 1982. And unintentionally ends up being a week-to-week Kurt Russell double feature, right?
Yeah.
Another one of those things awesome. We just tripped into, going back to the Kurt Russell well. We haven't done a lot of John Carpenter either. Hadn't we already established that before too? Like, this might be the first, or was there another one that I'm blanking on? Other than just his involvement in the horror, Halloween, the new ones, that new trilogy.
Other than that,
I don't think we've done one. So
that's weird.
Correct.
We're a horror podcast, and we've been on for how many? 5 years, so we haven't done a John Carpenter film.
5 years. 5 years in October. This Halloween it'll be. So yeah.
Well, there's. It wasn't intentional. It's crazy.
No, it just felt that way. But yeah, there we go. The brief synopsis on IMDb is: a research team in Antarctica is hunted by a shape-shifting alien that assumes the appearance of its victims. That's really all you need to know. So get ready. Go check it out. Go find it. Watch it. I'm gonna. Spoiler alert! It's awesome. Go check it out. I don't think our ratings are going to be a secret here for this one. So we'll find out next week. So, how is this a disaster? Well, you go watch the movie and you tell me. You tell me. So we'll discuss it next week. So for Will, who couldn't be with us, Donnie, the Professor Smoke, I'm Josh. We are the All American Spook Show, and we will talk to you next week for The Thing.
So goodbye, everybody, and remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you learned tonight.